I'm sure we have listeners out there who are thinking about getting their first data job. And for a lot of people, that could be a data analyst job.
Yeah.
So, what kind of recommendations do you have for people to take their background and kind of shape it to look like, how did you get the interview? How did you end up getting hired at Homey?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I would say that going back and getting education in the field itself is not only helpful for whatever job you end up getting, but I think for building the confidence and also being able to speak to how you can provide value to your future team that you're interviewing with. Also, I mean, going through not just a degree like the one at ASU, but things like Coursera and all of that are just great. I mean, I still use that stuff to continue to build a technical skill set and to just keep evolving because I think especially no matter what job you're at, sometimes you're really getting specific and into the nitty-gritty on one thing and you don't want to lose that skill set that you once had. So it's always good to keep going back, but especially when you're first starting, I would say especially in data analytics, I really prioritize SQL, did some Python, but a lot of SQL, also Tableau, Power BI, was fixated on that. Obviously, that's going to depend what tool your team is using is going to depend company to company, but going after the more popular ones is really good and being able to speak to because those will transfer over and that's not the learning curve isn't going to be super steep on those. But I also think there's a huge component to not just, and I don't mean networking in the sense of just, meeting acquaintances and stuff, but really looking into, okay, what are the companies that I would like to work in? What are the industries I would like to work in? Do I know people that work at those companies, even if they're not specifically in data? Because I know for me, I got the interview at Homey because I had a friend who I'd worked with in the fitness space who could speak to the kind of person I am, the team player I am, my work ethic. And she was working at Homey at the time, not in data, but she was on the product side and could get me a connect with the manager of data and was like, hey, so she could speak to the intangible things that I think are a little bit harder to put specifically on a resume because I think, we would all love to just put on a resume, hey, I'm a hard worker. It's like, well, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But
I have a feeling that when you're a national team bobsledder, one of the
yes.
fittest people on the planet, national title winner in swimming, there's a few hints that you
Yeah,
might be a
yeah.
hard worker.
That's definitely fair. But yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into also just going to meetups if you can, meetups in person. Obviously, it's great that through social media and LinkedIn we can meet people, states or, worlds away, but I think going to meetups, like there's a ton in Utah, which is really cool, that I've really enjoyed going to. Even when you're not looking for a job, it's just fun to see what other companies are doing and just to interact with more and more people in the space. So I think
Yeah.
that's a huge component is being able to find someone in those companies that can flag your resume and just speak to you as a person. And so people can get a more holistic picture of what you're trying to do and what you would bring to the table.
Yeah, meeting people in person at things like meetups. And when Colleen says meetup, she means meetup with a capital M. So you can literally go to meetup.com.
Right. Right.
And there
Exactly.
are, in a lot of the world, you can find a data analyst meetup or a data science meetup or an AI meetup. And you can meet people and you could show up and say, hey, I just listened to a podcast episode where a pro athlete became a data analyst and she said that it's a good career and I'm interested and I don't
Yeah,
know much else right now. You could show up to a data analyst meetup with that level of understanding of what's going on and you will be welcomed
totally.
and you might get free pizza and a beer.
Oh yeah. No, totally. It's always a good time. And like you're saying, I mean, I went to a data meetup not that long ago. Joe was there and the session was on AI applications. And I'm not doing that day to day, but I'm like, hey, this is interesting stuff. And it's also fun to know if that does come up and, in my day-to-day job, I have connections now that I can ask questions and, hey, how did you handle this problem and troubleshoot and stuff like that. So I think being able to build that community, not just within your company, but outside of it as well, within the data space, is just really fun. And it's fun to meet other people that are fired up about data. Because sometimes, you talk to people and they're like, oh, that sounds really boring and I don't want to talk about that. So it's fun to find people that you can connect with on that level.